area to get wrong, and it's a ripe area to there's a lot of opportunity to do some really amazing work in this space. And when I was kind of researching where I wanted to specialize as a designer, because I'd kind of been pretty generalist, and then kind of got into finance, and then I got very into just anything enterprise. And it's kind of been a funneling down just with my career in terms of the design work I do. I found out that there's an opportunity here to bring human-centered design into this space. When I looked at why a lot of initiatives fail in this space,
Yeah.
a lot of the classic design problems of like lack of problem clarity, people don't know what to do with the final results. You know, you have business people looking at something and scratching their head like, that's nice, so what? What
Yeah.
do I do now?
Right.
Or, you know what, I'm just going to go hire a firm to come in and do it. And then no one's happy, right? Because you
Yeah.
spend all this time and no one wants to, there's low engagement. You know, what are we getting for all this time we're spending doing something? Well, we built a model. Well, yeah, but what did I get from the model? That's what we're going to talk about today a little bit, is outcome versus output. They're not the
Yeah.
same
So without
thing.
much
So,
ado, let's talk about it. So what is
yeah,
outcome versus output?
sure. So it's something I talk a lot to my list about, and it's a really important concept, and it's not hard. But if you think about it, like any time we're building technology of any kind, there's going to be an output, which may be a software application. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be a dashboard or a bunch of dashboards. The point is the no one wants your output. They don't want your analytics. They don't want data science. That's not really what someone's asking for
That's
when
right.
they're coming to you for service. And if I'm talking right now to the people that are the ones requesting these kinds of services, they're probably nodding their head. I
Yeah.
don't really want analytics. Now, they may say they want analytics,
Yeah.
but as designers and design thinkers, our job is to dig into why. Why
Yeah.
do you want analytics? Why do you want a model? I want a model so that, and understanding what comes after the so that part of the sentence is where a lot of these initiatives fail. And if you really can nail in on the outcome, the
Yeah.
downstream outcome that happens at the end of the project, you may find out that there's faster ways to get to the outcome, or maybe a 30% solution is enough.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need an AI or,
I love
system.
it.
Maybe you don't need a predictive model. Maybe you don't need any of that stuff.
Right.
It's like, well, what if we just gave you a spreadsheet with a couple columns? Like, would that get you going? Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
but if you don't ask the right questions
Yeah.
and you open up a 20-page requirements doc and start coding and building pipelines and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
you're focusing on output, not
Yeah.
on outcome.
Right.
And this requires conversations, and it requires a different skill set that a lot of data people have. So I think design thinking and product design mentality and product management can help. It can help complement the technical skills of. There's so many talented people in this space doing amazingly technical stuff that I don't understand, and that's not my space. But I think there's complementary skills. We need different skills to make these solutions work for people.
Yeah.
So
And you
yeah,
rightly put it. I mean, this is the last mile. I've personally seen so many models, amazing models, basically sitting in shelf because they were not presented right, or they were not built in the context of solving somebody's problem, some business stakeholder's
right.
problem. And they were
Yeah,
just built because somebody understood the problem certain way, and they went running to collect data and start coding, like you said, before
mhm.
really understanding the why behind the what. Like, somebody asked you for that, but why are they asking for? And as you said, they don't need, and they really don't care about your analytics and algorithms. What they care about is how is it that you produce solves their problem which they have at hand. My
Right.
user is it writing, my customers are churning, I have a growth issue. These are the problems that you want to be addressing. So that's great. So what I'm understanding is, as you go into your client's organization, you're seeing a lot of challenges. A lot of engineers, a lot of data folks are still thinking from the output perspective, where they should be
Sure.
thinking from the outcome perspective. So
Sure.
what would be the 2 cents you would give to them as they start thinking about what are the 2 things they should be thinking about as they go into that conversation with their stakeholder?
Yeah, I think a couple things. First of all, the un- understanding the customer, and so what does that mean, right? It means that you have some empathy for what this person's like. There's probably a business stakeholder, a business user, if we're talking about a non-consumer right now.
Mhm.
What does a fill in the blank do all day long? I'm a a marketing whatever. I'm a marketing executive.
Yeah.
What is a day in the life like of me? How am I going to make decisions with this information at the end? I want to understand before we start the project, how are you going to know whether we did a good job or not? How will you make decisions with this information? And it's possible that some of this stuff can be prototyped without building anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can build, if you're predicting a score, forecasting a number, for example, you don't need to build the model to figure out what are you going to do with a 72.
Yeah.
What if it's 84?
Yeah.
What if it's 15?
Yeah.
And they probably don't know until you start talking to it about that. And at some point, you're probably going to arrive at a conversation that gets qualitative and gray and mushy and human, which is like, well, yeah, I mean, kind of like between 50 and 60. Yeah, I probably would go ahead and proceed. But if it was less than that, I wouldn't. Okay, they've just told you something really informative about how technically accurate the model needs to be. And well, what if you couldn't tell how it worked? Like, if you don't know how it works, do you care how it works? Do you need to be able to prove that to anybody? Is that important to you or not? Now, can I use a neural net or can I use a whatever? The point is, you have to understand at the beginning how it will be used at the end. You don't wait until the end to find out how it's going to be used. That is a high risk, a very expensive way to do things. So I'm very much on, let's design it up front, understand what success and failure look like before we write all the code and do all the pipelining and all the modeling and all the stuff that we're building, the application, et cetera. We need to have an idea about that. And then you have to measure it. And I'm talking about the measurement of, we talk about usability testing, but it could be qualitative testing, but it's some way that we're going to agree about how would we validate that this worked or created the outcomes that we wanted before we finish it.
Yeah.
And if you can figure that out, you can test along the way, you can ship increments, small iterations, and hopefully you can start to figure out, are we on the right track before you build a giant something, a big output.
Yeah. Such a good advice, and such a, I would say, timely advice, because a lot of people are, especially right during the COVID times and COVID impact analysis is going on. A lot of people are churning data, churning reports, and really thinking about, like you said, understand the customer, understand why they are asking what they are asking, understand how they're going to action on it, like you said, and also understand how they're going to define success, right? Like, how are we going to measure success of this program if this project was success? Even if it's a project that will take you 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months, defining success is so very important. So I mean, you really good point, Brian. I really appreciate you like sort of bubbling it up to the top for the folks who are listening in. I'm hoping we can have another follow-up conversation sometime soon, but this was so great. For folks who are listening in, Brian O'Neill is available. The website is Designing for Analytics, and for those, and designingforanalytics.com. And for folks who want to reach, how else can they reach out to you, Brian?
Yeah, I actually host a podcast as well called Experiencing Data. My email is just Brian at Designing for Analytics. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, all those good places. And I do have a nice mailing list. It's a free insights mailing list. So I send out, if you're interested in human-centered design as it applies to data products, they can just go to my site and you'll find the link. Really, it's just /join actually. So
that's perfect. That's great. So folks, do join in, and I hope you found this useful. Again, this is Priyanka, your host for the Analytics Cafe, and I'll